In today's video, I'm going to show you a very simple strategy that you can use today to beat absolutely everyone in the game of chess. Now, I see so many people approaching chess improvement the complete wrong way. They study endless opening variations, they do all these tactical puzzles, they play thousands and thousands and thousands of games online, in blitz, in bullet, in rapid, and despite all their hard work, they're not actually making any progress. They get stuck at 700 ELO, 1000 ELO, 500 ELO, 1200 ELO, whatever it is. They get to a certain point and they just get stuck for months and months and months. And it doesn't have to be that way. If you can master this one simple thinking system, this one strategy, you can beat almost everyone at chess. It is so simple. Now, what is this strategy? Well, let's start from the very beginning in this game. White opens 1c4, and the opening doesn't really matter. This strategy works in literally every single opening in every game, as white or as black. I go e6, we have knight c3, d5, d4, and then knight to f6. The good old-fashioned queen's gambit decline, if you are familiar with that opening. Now, the secret strategy I'm going to teach you is called attack or develop, and it's a two-part strategy. Here's what you do. Every single time your opponent makes a move, the first thing you do, the very first thing, you must ask yourself, what is the opponent's threat? What are they threatening? Here, white goes knight f3. Now, is there a threat? The answer is no. If there's not a threat, proceed to step 2 that I call attack or develop. It's very simple. What you do is, first of all, you look for all of your attacking moves, your aggressive moves, your moves that put pressure on the opponent, your checks, your captures, your threats. Now here, what are my attacking moves? Taking on c4 might be one. Bishop b4 might be one, attacking the knight c3. How about knight e4, attacking c3? How about c5, pressuring d4? And how about knight c6, also pressuring d4? The first thing you do is you examine all of your attacking moves like this, like this, like this, like this, and like this. Even b5 technically would be an attacking move. And the first thing you say is, do I have any good attacking moves? If you do, look at it carefully and decide, is it strong enough to play right now? If you don't, then what you do is you simply develop more pieces. Either bring out more pieces into the game, castle, or find a better square for your existing pieces. Now in this game here, I don't have a particularly good attacking idea. I could take on c4, I could go c5, but I like the move here, simply bishop b4, developing, pressuring c3, setting up castling, and so on. It's the so-called Rogozin variation of the queen's gambit decline. It's very common at the GM level these days. Now here, white has a lot of ideas, but in the game, white plays the move bishop g5. All right, real fast. What is the opponent's threat? First of all, they are pinning this knight on f6 to the queen on the d8 square. Is that a serious threat? Not really. There's no real threat right here. For example, if I could try to take on d5 like this, and then perhaps trade here, and perhaps try to win this pawn, but the problem with that is the knight on c3 is currently pinned to the king. For example, if I wasted a move, let's say castles here, and white took on d5, there is no threat of winning d5 like this, as that knight is currently pinned to the king on the e1 square. So that is not a big deal. So white here doesn't really have a threat. All right, attack or develop. Do I have any good attacking ideas? Again, moves like taking on c3, knight e4, c5, h6, and so on. In the game, I do play the move h6, which I quite like, simply pressuring this bishop, trying to force it back, and if it does go back, then I can go taking on c4, which would be very strong for me. It's all sort of standard theory. But here, white, instead of that, he plays the stronger idea of simply capturing on f6. All right, real fast. Does white have a threat? Step 1, yes. He took a piece, he attacks the queen, therefore the only good move here is recapturing back. Queen takes f6. Now white on move 7, queen to a4 check. First rule, does white have a threat? What is the opponent's idea? Here, white is checking my king, but he also has the attack on the bishop. Therefore, I must find some way to block the attack on the king while also defending the bishop. And the only move here that does that is the move knight c6. So if you don't use this system, if you just say, oh, my king's under attack, I should block the attack, the problem with that, you lose the bishop. And so many of you watching this, if you are, say, 500 ELO, 1100 ELO, 800 ELO, you're probably making mistakes like this in your game. That's why you simply must ask yourself every single move, what is the opponent's threat? If you do that, you'll see, oh, the bishop and the king are both under attack. It's not a complicated idea, but if you don't ask yourself that question every single move, and I mean every single move, on move 5, move 6, move 7, move 8, move 9, move 10, move 11, if you don't do that, you will drop pieces like this. You have to ask yourself that question. What is the threat? Here, knight c6 defends the threat. It's the only move. Now here, white, what does he do? e3. Does the opponent have a threat? The answer is no. White's idea, most likely, is to defend c4, maybe go bishop to, say, e2 or d3 and castles, sort of standard stuff for white here. So there is no threat. All right, as black, attack or develop. Do I have any good attacking ideas? If yes, consider playing it. If no, develop. Well, here, I could take on c4. That's one idea. I could also, that's about it for right now. Taking on c4 is really the only decent attacking idea. Now, I don't want to do that, as I want white to go, say, bishop to e2 or d3 and then take on c4, making white waste a tempo. So instead here, I simply castle, the next best developing option. Now white here, it's his turn to move. Move 9. He takes on d5. What is the opponent's threat? He wins a pawn and threatens my knight. Therefore, I must recapture back on d5. It's the only move. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And very importantly, pawn on d5 cannot be attacked, as that knight currently is pinned by the bishop. All right, white now. Bishop b5. What is the opponent's threat? Actually, there's a very big threat. Can you find it? It's very simple. Taking on c6 and then taking the bishop. If I didn't ask myself this question, what is the opponent's threat? I might go say, I don't know, bishop to, d7. And then bada boom, bada bang, bishop takes, queen takes, and you lose the game completely. So again, you must ask yourself, what is the opponent's threat every single move? Oh, the threat is removing the defender of the bishop. Okay, what should I do here? Well, it turns out a move like bishop d7 actually is playable, and the reason why is, if white takes, I can play the intermediate move, bishop takes c3 check, with the check on the king. White takes, I take back. Now, is this the best way to go? Maybe, maybe not. There are some other options. I can go, say, rook d8 defending d5. I can go knight e7 defending d5. I can go bishop to g4, attacking f3. In the game, though, I played the move a5, gaining space and is trying to defend this bishop on the b4 square. Now here, what does white do? He can trade on c6, but that would involve giving up his precious light square bishop. Instead here, he simply plays the move castles. Now here, as black, does white have a threat? The answer is actually, yes, he does. Knight takes d5 is a threat. White has castled. The king is no longer under the knight is no longer pinned to the king. So again, if you don't ask yourself what is the opponent's threat, you will miss the idea that white here can now take on d5. You must always see what did they play and what are the implications of their last move. If you don't do that, you will continue to blunder move after move after move, regardless of how many puzzles you do. You can do all the puzzles in the world, but if you're doing puzzles and you don't simply ask yourself what is the opponent's threat in your games, you will lose so many pieces like this. So here, I must defend against this threat. I can take on c3. I can go knight e7. I can go rook d8. I can go bishop e6. I can go queen to e6 or d6. There are a lot of options. In the game, though, I play a very typical idea in this Carlsbad style pawn structure. That is the move knight e7. Getting this knight out of the way of the attack, defending d5, and setting up c6 ideas, which again is very, very common in this pawn structure. Now white here, knight to e5. Ooh, all right. What is the opponent's threat? Good question. For right now, I don't necessarily see one. White has some pressure on f7, some pressure on d7. If the bishop there was not alive, knight d7 would hit the rook and the queen. That might be a tactical idea for later, but for right now, I don't really see a threat. Maybe white wants to go f4 here, but that also isn't a big threat. If white were to go f4, a move like c5 would open up the game too fast, and f4 would not really be that good of an idea. f4 works better when the center is more closed. Now here's black. There is no real threat, therefore I can either attack or develop. What are my attacking ideas? Well, I can take on c3. That's one option. I can attack this knight on e5. That's an option. I can go c6. pushing back this bishop. That's an option. Now, if I don't like any of those options, then I should develop with, say, I don't know, rook to d8 or bishop to f5 and so on. Now here, I do like the idea of c6, bolstering d5, attacking the bishop. It's sort of a move I want to make anyway later in the game. So here, I find it to be a pretty good time to play that move. The bishop goes back, bishop to d3, and now here, attack or develop. There's no threat by white. White has no ideas here. He's retreating. So I can either attack or develop here. My developing moves might be bishop to, say, e6 or f5 or rook d8. Now, what are my attacking ideas? Again, knight to g6, maybe b5, maybe taking on c3. So those are the big options I'm looking at right here. In the game, I do play the simple developing idea of bishop f5, trying to trade off my so-called bad dark squared bishop, as all these pawns are on light squares right here. In the game, white goes queen c2. What is the opponent's threat? Well, there is no threat yet. My bishop is defended twice by the queen and the knight and attacked twice. Therefore, if white were to take, I take back and I am just fine. Now here, I go for a simple way to continue. I simply take on d3. Bishop takes. It wasn't required. I could go, say, I don't know, rook to e8 if I wanted to, or b5, or taking on c3. But to me, taking makes a lot of sense. Bishop takes. We have queen takes. And now here, how should I continue in this game? Well, as always, what is the opponent's threat? Well, actually, when I went and traded on d3, something happened. This bishop no longer defends d7. Look at this. If you don't ask yourself what is the opponent's threat, you will miss this move, knight d7. That's why, again, the two-step process. What is the opponent's threat? If there is one, respond. If there isn't one, then proceed with attack or develop. If you have a strong attacking idea, play it. If you don't have a strong attacking idea, develop and bring more pieces out into the game as quickly as you can. Or if every piece is out, find your worst place piece and find a better square for it, or the dream square, and start marching it towards that dream square. Now here, what is the opponent's threat? Obviously, knight d7. I have to respond, and I play the move queen to e6, defending d7. Now, white here plays a very aggressive idea of e4. What is the opponent's threat? Well, trading on d5 might be it, but overall, white is sort of gaining space in the center. Now here, this is a very critical tactical point in the game. Whenever you get to a critical tactical point where lots of things are being attacked like this, you want to slow down, and you might even want to use the actual CCTO system, which is checks, captures, and threats. What I mean is, in a really tactical point in the game, you want to consider every possible tactical move, every attacking move, every single check. There are no checks. Every single capture, taking on e4, taking on c3, and so on, and every single threat, perhaps f6, perhaps knight g6, and so on. So in these tactical points in the game, you really want to consider every possible move, as the difference here between the best move and the second best move is simply massive. In the opening, they're pretty similar, like move 1 and move 2 are kind of similar, but here, in these tactical positions, the best moves often like leaps and bounds better than the next best move. Therefore, you really need to find the best move here. So what do I do in this position? Well, it turns out taking on e4 is the right call, as white's pawn on d4 would be very, very weak after something like this. That pawn would be super, super weak. But instead, I wasn't quite sure about that. I didn't really know how to assess that position. It's kind of the first point in this game where I'm kind of confused, kind of not really sure what I'm doing. Again, I'm only rated about 2,000 online. I say only, like it's top 1% online player on chess.com, but at the same time, I'm only 2,000. Like, I don't know everything about chess, right? I'm like you. I don't know everything here. I'm kind of like just kind of feeling through the game. So here I play sort of a feeler move, kind of a waiting move, rook a d8. So I don't really know how to assess the implications of taking on e4 in this game. So I simply play a solid waiting move, rook a d8, developing one more piece to a good square, lining it up with the queen, lining it up with potentially the pawn on d4, which to me, like, this seemed pretty solid. As far as a waiting move goes, bringing out this rook into the game on a pretty good file seemed like a pretty good idea to me. Now, white here plays the move a3. What's the threat? Obviously, the bishop. White here, threat is to capture on a3, so I must respond to this threat. So what do I do right here? What is the idea? Well, I could take on c3, or I could go back to d6, or I could play an intermediate move like taking on e4, which is also playable. So which of these do I do? In the game, again, I'm not so sure about the implications of taking on c3. The problem with that is after like b takes, white reinforces d4 and has the b file to attack, and it just seems kind of dangerous. I don't really like this for black, personally. So I avoided that. Now, it's not actually that bad. The engine likes it, but to me, it's just like, it's just icky. It's like that Michael Scott from The Office meme where he's like, you know, it's kind of that kind of feel to it. So I don't go for it, right? Michael Scott here avoids that capture. Instead, Michael Scott just goes back to d6, a solid move, pressuring the knights and so on. So my threat now is capturing on e5. So again, I don't really know about this. But I felt like this would be a pretty solid move where, you know, I'm not worse, where I'm still in control for the most part. So I simply play it. And sometimes in chess, that's kind of what happens. You're not really sure what's going on, but that's kind of the thrill of it. Like you're you know, it's the chaos of the game, it's the chaos of the board. You don't really know what's happening. Your opponent also doesn't really know what's happening, unless it's like Magnus versus Hikaru or something. But like at our level, right, it's kind of that thrill of like, ooh, what's going to happen here? So play a solid move, attack the knights. Now white here plays the move f4. Okay, here we go. Very, very aggressive. What's the threat? Does white have a threat? Yes, f5, and then f6. For example, if I waste a move, like I don't know, it's hard to waste a move here, to be honest. Bishop c7. If I waste a move like that, the threat is f5, pushing back the queen. If the queen goes back to, say, I don't know, d6, then a move like f5 could hit, trying to blow open the king side. And after like g takes, suddenly the king is just exposed, and it's getting ugly fast. So obviously, I don't want that. So, all right, white goes f5. What is the threat? The threat is, sorry, f4. White goes f4. The threat is f5. I don't want that at all. So what do I do here? Well, I have to respond to the threat. And again, this is a very tactical point in the game. In points like this, you really should probably consider CCT, checks, captures, threats. Do I have any checks? Not really. Do I have any captures? Yes. I can take on e4 or e5 or e5 with the queen, but not a good idea. Do I have any threats? Maybe f6, maybe, but that weakens all these light squares. So I like the move here, d takes e4. Now, I wasn't so sure about this earlier in the game, but when white goes f4, I know here that my goal is to open the center and make white's king exposed and make this move here look like a weakness and a liability instead of an asset. Now here, white takes with the knight, knight takes e4. What is the opponent's threat? The threat here is taking on d6 with the knight, which isn't that big of a deal. I like my bishop, but it's not the end of the world. So what do I do here? Well, this pawn, it's got to be stopped. I play the move knight f5, jumping up, blockading the pawn. Yes, white can go g4, but that would be positional suicide, so I don't think he'll do that in the game. Now here, white plays knight g3. What is the opponent's threat? Obviously, it's to capture on f5, but you'd be amazed how many amateur players don't actually ask themselves what's the threat and can white win that knight on f5. If you don't ask yourself that question, you will lose that knight 100% of the time, unless your opponent also is missing the idea for some reason. But like, I'm telling you, you gotta, if you're like 700 elo, 1,300 elo, 400 elo, 900 elo, you gotta just drill this into your head. What is the opponent's threat on literally every move, every single move? All right, the threat, taking on f5. What can I do about it? Well, I can retreat the knights to, I don't know, e7. I can go to h4, or I can defend it, or I can simply trade on g3. And to me, trading looks like the most obvious, simplest, easiest move, so I do trade on g3. Now, white here trades with the h-pawn, h takes, which looks kind of absurd to me. Why wouldn't you capture with the queen? Well, it's a chess bot, that's why. So the chess bot takes with the h-pawn, h takes. Now here, do I have any, well, first of all, what is the opponent's threats? F5 is sort of being threatened. That's a valid idea by white. That would be decent. Do I have to respond to it? Do I have any good attacking ideas by myself? It turns out, yes, I do have a good attacking idea. If you like puzzles, pause the video right now and try to find the good attacking idea for me right here. And by the way, guys, if you are tired of watching endless YouTube videos like mine, yes, these videos are very helpful, but if you're watching these YouTube videos and you're still not making the progress you want with online chess, if you're stuck at 900 or 500 or 1,300 ELO and you just can't make any progress, I know the feeling, and that's why I made the Dr. Mike Chess Academy. It's totally free to join. All you got to do, go to drmikechess.com. The link's above and down below in the pinned comment and the description. When you get there, I will welcome you there. I'll send you a DM right away. And I have tons of resources for you, like free courses, free group coaching, free daily game reviews, free community, everything you need to improve in online chess very, very fast. So again, if you're stuck and you want to improve and you want to learn from me, a 2,000 ELO online player, go to drmikechess.com. All right, here. My tactical idea is simply taking on e5. Bishop takes e5. This is the idea. Why? Well, this pawn on d4 is pinned by the rook to the queen. Let's go all the way back to move. What move was that? That was move 16. Move 16. Again, I didn't know what to do. Taking on e4 was strongest, but I didn't really understand that. I didn't understand this. I simply played the quiet developing move, rook a d8, putting pressure on the queen. And we're seeing all the way now on move 21, right here, the benefit of that move. This is why it's so important to, if you don't have a good attacking idea, to simply develop your pieces to the best possible squares, because sooner or later, those pieces will have something they can do. Here, obviously the pawn's pinned, and if black takes the bishop with the f pawn, I can take the e5 pawn like this. And that's what happened in the game. And if white takes, I take on d3, and I'm winning essentially in the pawn endgame. All right, white here, rook a d1. What is the opponent's threat? Well, the threat is my queen, as his queen is supported. Okay, I got to respond. Queen d6, I retreat. Rook f5. What is the opponent's threat? The pawn on the a5 square. If you don't ask yourself that question, you will lose that pawn. But if you do ask yourself the question, you can defend. Here, b6 defends. White, queen to f3. What is the opponent's threat? Well, he's pressuring f3, or sorry, c6, pressuring f7, but there's no real threat yet. Here I play c5, the idea being the pawn on d4 is pinned. I'm trying to capture it. If white takes, I win the rook and the game. Therefore, instead, white goes d5. Now, rook d to e8 is the move. I'm trying to develop. This rook now doesn't do a whole lot. White has d5 permanently supported. There's no way to win the pawn. And this rook here must stay on f8 to defend f7. Therefore, this piece is now the worst placed piece, and therefore I slide it over to e8. Not a complicated idea, but rook e8 trying to, control the e-file. White, rook to f1, sliding over, tripling up major pieces on the f-file. What is the opponent's threat? It's simple, taking on f7. That's a big deal. Therefore, I must defend, and I play the move queen to e7, defending f7. White, d6. What is the opponent's threat? He's threatening to win the queen, and if I take, white can take on f7. It's a deflection sacrifice. Now here, I don't like taking, I don't like defending. Instead, I counterattack and force the queens off the board with the move queen to e3. Queen e3 check, forcing the queens off the board and into a good endgame. Now here, technically, according to the engine, I have a winning endgame if I find the right sequence of moves. And comment down below if you think you know the right sequence right here, because I got this wrong. I thought, oh, duh, rook endgame. You want to keep your rooks active. Rook e2, threaten b2. But turns out this move here was a massive mistake, and it actually throws away the advantage I fought the entire game for. I fought the entire game thinking, what is the opponent's threat? Attack or develop, finding all these good moves, and I throw it away in one single move. Chess is a brutal game. Instead, the idea is rook e6, intending rook to d8, pressuring d6 like this, and that is the sequence. Then king f8, e8, d7, win the pawn, Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Instead, rook e2 is my move, but this is just not the right idea. It's right in principle. You want to be aggressive with those rooks, but it's not the right move. Unfortunately for me, woe is me. All right, white, rook 1 to f2. I trade. Then rook d8, trying to win this pawn. It turns out white made some mistakes, and I still have a chance. And again, I blow it. f6. Ben Feingold's favorite move. And it's not very good here. Instead, king to f8, then e8, then d7, then rook c8, c6 takes is the right way forward. Instead, f6, and this apparently does not win. d7, king f7, rook d6, king e7, rook takes, and now because I lost this pawn, I simply don't have enough. If I had that pawn, if white's rook was on, say, c2, I had a pawn on b6, that would be a winning rook and pawn endgame. But as it stands, it is simply a drawn endgame in theory. Let's see how it goes. Rook b5, attacks those pawns. Rook d2, being active. White takes, I take. And now from here, it's simply a drawn endgame. 3 pawns each. Neither side can make progress. And I finally find a way to force the bot to just give me a draw. And 3 full draw by repetition. Wow, what a game. I hope this shows you the one secret strategy you can use to crush everyone at online chess, assuming you don't blunder in the endgame like I did with like 2 apparently big mistakes. I can't even find it. Rook e2 right here. Apparently a blunder. And then finally the Ben Feingold counterattack f6. But if you don't blunder in the endgame like I did and you use my attack or develop system, you will crush everyone at chess. And one more time, every single move. What is the opponent's threat? What is the opponent's threat? No threat. If there is a threat, you respond to it. If there is not a threat, proceed with step 2, attack or develop. If you have a good attacking idea, play it. If you don't have a good attacking idea, develop more pieces, castle, bring every piece out, and then once every piece is out, find your worst placed piece and find a better square for it and move it there. The reason this works, I see so many players that use CCTO and they're just thinking like, okay, if I just don't blunder and I wait for the opponent to blunder, then I'll win more games. And that strategy, it works for a little while, but it doesn't put maximum pressure on the opponent. My system, attack or develop, it's so much better. Number 1, it is so much simpler and easier to use. And number 2, it actually forces you to think about applying pressure on the opponent, which when you apply pressure, that is when you induce mistakes out of the opponent and actually get more blunders to capitalize on and win material. So to me, attack or develop is the premier thinking system in chess. To me, it's far better and easier and simpler, more effective than CCTO. But if you like CCTO, by all means, use it. By all means, if you like it, if you get results with it, use it. But to me, attack or develop is simply a better version of it all around. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to give this strategy, attack or develop, a shot in your own games. And by the way, if you want to learn directly from me, if you're getting value out of this video, if you're like, hey, this Mike guy is finally explaining things in a way I can understand, I'm finally like getting it in my head. If that's you right now, if you're like, hey, this video like is making some sense, if that's you right now, you know, wouldn't it make sense to go to my free online community and like engage with me and learn even more from me? Like, it's free. You can just go to drmikechess.com. You can go there and click the free join now button and jump in and connect with 800 other online chess players who are all striving to improve, and ask me questions and get your games reviewed and get my free opening courses and on and on. Like, wouldn't that make sense? Hint, hint, wink, wink. Your call, but if you're asking me, if you're actually enjoying this video, if you're getting value out of this video, go to drmikechess.com. Join today. Dr. Mike's Chess Academy. It's the best online chess community there is today. So anyways, that is all for today. And as always, I wish you the best of luck with your chess improvement journey in 2025 and beyond. And I'll see you in the next video.